Hello, beautiful, amazing, fantastic world, and you, wonderful, wonderful individual you. Today, I would like to speak about building foundation and cultivating inner character as we develop our own latent spiritual and esoteric faculties. For us to be able to have a healthy and moral and warm, kind character, it is not something that is given to us. It is a preference and a longing we continuously have that allows us to have the drive and the strength and the inner qualities to build these inner foundations. For us to build a healthy and grounded character, we should be able, or our capacities to be humble, to look at oneself and one's own flaws and where our shadows lie, and even in the face of pain, we have equanimity and dignity about us. That despite going through the pain, we still have a certain amount of stability and strength within us to face it head on. And of course, the strength to be ridiculed if that is a certain possibility for anyone, because this is by no means a normal and a common path to take, albeit it is an important and a necessary one. And laying bare one's own being as to you at a certain point come to the stage where you feel your body and you see your body as being something kind of external and being a part of but also separate from our soul spiritual being. So we do become more of a carrier of this vessel than being our bodies in a sense. And then of course we have a certain acceptance and trust, and also a certain awaiting time, a certain, you feel you have lost everything you kind of had, but then after darkness it shows itself as being something you always were part of. You lose the willy-nilly and wants and needs of petty and small things that is otherwise transient, temporary, and in the grand scheme of things not very important. But after we have come to this insight, this understanding of what is important, which you will have to find out for yourself too. It's not something you can just define in a sentence or in a paragraph, something you actually have to actively unfold. You come to a certain stability and trust within your moral and character and behaviors, inner thoughts, feelings, and will. They align more with the macro, in a sense. And the more we do this, the more it aligns. And then after we have gone through these 7 stages of development, we come into a certain new form, a way of being that otherwise were not possible because we continuously created static and turmoil and conflict with ourselves, within ourselves, in a sense. Now, for us to hold these qualities within us, this strength of character, this courage to hold on to what's true, beautiful, and good, and the strength to have a dignity and humility in this, knowing that we are not the only ones cultivating this. We are being inspired, we are being guided, and we are continuously being graced with insights, with drives, with inner life force, with a certain oomph to us. That is not only us alone. That is something that is highly inspired within us too. We start to let go of our own, what should we call it, arrogance, and allow for a certain humility, a form of service bound. All of the knowledge we accumulate, everything we learn is for the good of oneself and the world and the next person. Love thy neighbors, and so on. And for that we also need to be awake to justice or karma. We reap what we sow. From that standpoint on, we become very careful. And also judgment or discernment, right judgment. So we can discern what is healthy for our soul and what we should not necessarily participate in with our soul. Everything we choose to let go of and choose to embrace is in this discernment. And then we have courage or fortitude. We need to have courage to stay and stick with these things. And then we have prudence or carefulness, gentleness, a more feminine and sensitive touch to it in a sense, to balance out the masculine structure and softening it out a little bit with carefulness and gentleness. These are the 4 cardinal virtues. Then we have the higher virtues, faith, love, and hope, but not blind faith. It's faith that comes from continuous striving towards knowledge, understanding, and insight. Love is the Christ being in me, in you, the compassion, forgiveness, hope, and the blossoming of warmth and life. And we have hope, the aspirations and ideals and unfolding of the future. And we, by embracing and cultivating all of these qualities, character, strengths, and virtues, we hold ourselves to a certain dignity, integrity. It is allowed to be playful. It's allowed to be a little bit creative within our own being, even a little bit mischievous and having a little wink, because but you don't ever have the need or the drive or whatever inner fire that makes you wish to convince someone or force someone to see, or you are fully content in what you know. And for anyone that wish to know, we gladly speak about it. We do this out of artistic need and longing. We do this for the cultivation of our soul, spirit, and body. We do this for the future incarnations. We do this to bring out the potential and latent spirit of this earth. The more we awaken that within ourselves, the more we begin to see it outwardly in our sense-perceptible realities too. It's all about knowing what we do have to work with. That requires study. That requires some amount of pre-work, some amount of building scaffolding, and building the concepts first until you can cross-check the concepts with reality. Continuously living and continuously experiencing, experimenting, and observing, exploring. The more you do it, the more grounded and anchored you become in a certain amount of allowing for the higher worlds to guide us, and we build the atmosphere within this journey. You see, we cannot know every single little happening and occurrences and situation that will happen in the future, but we can work upon how we meet it. We can work upon our integrity, our vessel, how integrated and dignified we are while meeting these future happenings and truths, you see. And that is what I want to come to. We work upon the fulcrum, the vessel, the being, so that we can handle anything that might come, being flexible and meeting it and readjusting dancing with life as life inspires us to do. For I can tell you immediately, the higher worlds, they have preferences. And they guide us towards the true, the good, and the beautiful. What we bring into, what we see as unnatural, let's just say, the soul and spirit, if we see that as unnatural, if we see that as not human, the more unnatural we become. Just as an example. For that is the discrepancy of reality contra what we think is reality. Even though we cannot perceive it as of now, doesn't mean that it isn't there. It only means that we need to cultivate our vessel deeper and further and more, and ennobling it, purifying it, and cultivating our faculties to be able to meet it in the future. We need to be comfortable with not seeing certain things now, but having faith, love, and hope. You see? It is a free choice. It is an inner state of free choice we do here. This is a preference. I could easily have been guided towards anywhere and everywhere if I didn't have certain preferences and aspirations to reach towards. And those might take lifetimes too. I am content with not achieving full human enlightenment, initiation, and spiritualization in this lifetime, because that is not what we are after. We are after cultivating the maximal amount of potential through the new truths that is being presented in this specific incarnation at this specific era, this epoch. For every epoch brings something new to us we should pay attention to. And to this epoch is the age of the consciousness soul. We are meant to awaken to our inner being, to the outer world, and to others, and to the impulses and spiritual inklings we more often than not only see glimpses and hints of today. So, yeah, it is fully possible. It's all about having a little amount of trust at first. It's all about the goodwill, the hope, the faith. And when you have faith, love, and hope, with the 4 other faculties, karma, discernment, courage, and carefulness, you will over time come to see that they do accommodate us to a high degree, but they do not always accommodate us if our inner longings are egotistical, self-serving, and disconnected from the whole, from humanity. So it is about integrity and dignity, humility, intellectual tact, moral tact. And that is what I will leave you with today. Thank you so much for listening to me. My Father, Holy Spirit, Christ, Michael, Angel Masters of old, ancestors from reincarnation, bless, protect, guide, and love you on your amazing journey. And may you be provided for with all that you need to survive, live, thrive, being creative, inspirational, and healing to the world, so others can choose to follow when the time is right and the courage is most high. Thank you so much, my dear sibling. Love you. See you. Goodbye.